Welcome back to Nap Trapped. Happy Thursday, everyone. Happy Thursday, Beck.
Happy Thursday, Sally. Welcome back, everybody. Another week.
Another week, and listeners may still be very surprised to know that we have never met in person.
Yeah.
Still.
I'm still
It
surprised
shocks me,
myself.
actually.
Yes, I know, because we're like tight. Like we are practically the same person. And the more we learn about each other, we're like, same. Oh my gosh, wow.
Yeah, outside of the biscuit choices, I'm yet to find a real point of difference.
Yeah.
But we are planning to rectify that, and we actually want to bring you along. We are wanting to take Nap Trapped on the road live and
Exciting.
meet all of you wonderful listeners. And so we are planning 2 events in the coming months. We haven't got dates locked in yet. We're still trying to figure out locations somewhere that is baby friendly, whilst also feels like an amazing escape for you as mothers and parents listening.
Yes.
We're going to be running 2 events. So one in Melbourne and then one in Sydney. And it'll be broken down into 2 sort of offerings, I guess. One is we're going to be
Yes.
doing a walk and talk on one day.
Yes.
So we're going to meet, for example, if you're a Melbourneite like me, we're going to meet at the town. We're going to grab a coffee from Gilson and don our nap trapped caps and walk the tan, and we get to just hang out, talk baby sleep, not talk baby sleep. If you want to have a spicy mug with us after, you can be our guest. We'll meet you at the bot, but we are going to do a walk and talk. Prams, carriers, you name it, all are welcome.
Oh my God, you sold me just with the names. Like you're throwing names out there, like, and it all sounds so exciting. Like I feel like I know Melbourne already.
You just wait till I take you to the Pilates class I was just telling you about before we hit record. I have your whole itinerary planned for Melbourne, Beck.
Yes.
And then we're going to back that up the next day with a ticketed event where we are going to put on our sleep consultant hats. This is for families that want a plan, a personalised plan made by Beck and I. You will receive an intake form. It'll be like a consultation, or when you sign up for Camp Snooze, we will go through everything and we will create a plan, and then we will do a small group event where we are then going to walk you through the entire process to get better baby sleep for you and your family.
Yeah, I just love the idea of doing this. I know there's lots of families out there that are sort of unsure exactly where to start, and having your sleep consultant from NapTrapped assess your logs and assess your questionnaire and pinpoint the exact reasons or the challenges that or the exact reasons for the challenges that you're facing, and then allow us to create a plan that's specific to your family. I think takes a lot, a lot of the guesswork out in terms of like what's actually happening. So for us to be able to create that plan, and then for you to sit and enjoy a beautiful event where we talk you all through it.
There'll be show bags.
There'll be show bags. There'll be there'll be Sally taking the lead on a lot of the mic
on the show bags,
and obviously taking the lead on a lot of the coffee, because good coffee down there, and so we're going to be getting
Melbourne,
the best coffee for our
absolutely.
event. The beauty of having the workshop is that we will deliver this plan that is specific to your family. We've done all the hard work of pinpointing the underlying challenges. It is designed for you, your baby, your family. The workshop itself will go through all the foundations for sleep, how the sleep cycles work. So the science behind sleep, it'll talk about room environments, all the things that we go through in our regular consultations. You'll be privy to all of that information. You will then be, all the things that will be spoken about in terms of the sleep training options that are available to you. We go through everything in depth so that there isn't a stone unturned. You feel super confident when you leave that you will be able to turn your sleep challenges around, and that, at the other end, if you do feel like you need support, there is options for that. But we fully anticipate that you will feel, once you've left this event, fully equipped to do a little DIY, in terms of like your sleep work.
Because we sort of were umming and ahhing about what sort of event. Do we run a masterclass? Do we take one topic, catnapping? Do we talk about overnight wakings, weaning feeds? And we thought, no, what do we do best? Our best work is solving your baby sleep problems. There is a reason why we love case studies and we love sleep detective questions and we love camp stories and we love our client work because our jam is solving your baby sleep issues in a way that makes sense for you so that it is sustainable and achievable to implement. And then you absolutely reap the rewards. So we thought we can do all the walk and talk and the chat about topics and, do something on the fly with our walk and talk. But we want to take this one step further so that you get a consultation from your NapTrap sleep consultants with a personalized plan and ongoing support after. Plus, you'll just have us in the room. So all those questions that you might hang up from a consult and think, oh, I forgot to ask this, or what does this mean here when I read that, you'll have us in person and we will be able to put all of that doubt to bed and answer all of your questions in real time and just get to know you. And this is, as I said, this is what we do best. So we want to bring this to you, to the people, and we're going to divide and conquer. We're going to do one in Melbourne and one in Sydney. We've even talked about the UK. So please make this book out so that we can convince our husbands, we've got the proof of concept here. We better take this global.
That's
so
why I
that
love
is
the
something
idea of NapTrapped on the road. Like, I just feel like it's a unique concept. I think having the both of us so passionate about what we do and making it realistic and achievable and breaking it down into something that is not super scary and that can absolutely be done from a holistic perspective, bringing this to you all in real life, I think is something that I have always wanted to do, and I could think of no better person to do it with. So, Sally, my
that filled my cup. We finally get to meet.
Wifey, yes.
Wifey,
I hope we
that's
like
us.
each other in real life.
I know. Maybe
not
this is
like-
a case of absence makes the heart grow fonder. And then we're going to burst that bubble. I don't think so. I think we're not going to come up for air, just like we don't do on the actual pod. I was actually thinking about this morning. How long, let's say in the last 6 to 9 months, do you think we've gone between talking to each other? And like max 48 hours?
Yes, we've had a couple of days actually, like in the last sort of 48, 30, that, you had a really lovely, nice weekend with hubby and, you did such an amazing, your gala day. And then there was a couple of things that cropped up with me and we just did, and because we didn't have a camp snooze in the mix, I feel like we've gone from Friday to today without actually speaking, which I think has been the longest.
Except when you went to Thailand and I had to coach myself being like, be cool, Sally. She doesn't want to hear from you today, Sally. She doesn't need you, Sally. And then you'd message a picture and be like, oh my God, back.
Yes, you're like my wing woman. So, it's one of those things that we can
Well, the
bring
feeling
this
is
energy.
mutual and now we get to take it on the road. So stay tuned to our socials, also to these podcast episodes, because the moment we have a date and more relevant information, you will be the first to know. And also, if you don't already subscribe to the mailing list for NapTrap, do so because you will get the first notification of when tickets go available so that we can transform your life with baby sleep. Today we are talking about baby sleep associations, which I think can sometimes feel like, we know all about those. Are those just like how your baby gets to sleep? There is so much misinformation out there online, and we want to give you our NapTrapped take on what sleep associations are and whether or not they play a role in how your baby does or doesn't sleep.
And this episode will help you to identify whether or not you actually have a sleep association at play within your child's sleep. So I think we can roll into have we got we always hear about positive associations and negative associations. What are your thoughts, Sally, on that?
I just think we don't need to be any more divisive in the world of baby sleep than we already are. For me, I think I call them more assisted or unassisted and call it semantics, but I think there's enough shame in terms of how people get their babies to sleep, whether it be sleep training, co-sleeping, feeding to sleep. We don't need to fuel that anymore by calling something a negative sleep association because fundamentally we have no issue. There is no problem with how anyone gets their baby to sleep and how they resettle them overnight. Whether you are bouncing on a fitball, feeding your baby to sleep, rocking them for 2 hours, it doesn't matter. Nothing is a problem. We say this all the time. Nothing is a
Yeah.
problem unless it is a problem. And that's when you and I come into play, because
Mhm.
we will help you fix that problem. And sleep associations are fundamentally the way that the habit that your baby is looking for in order to fall asleep, that is then needing to be replicated multiple times overnight as they rouse between sleep cycles. And I think the common misconception is that what is a sleep association that causes problems overnight for one baby may not be for another baby,
Yeah.
hence why a lot of people say it's not real. I can feed my baby to sleep all the way,
Mm.
22 months in, and they sleep 11 to 12 hours overnight.
Mhm.
It's not true. Sleep consultants make this up in order for you to buy their product to sleep train your baby.
Mhm.
And what works for that baby is absolutely not the case for so many other babies. And it's not just us saying it. So it actually has a name. We didn't just make this concept up. It's called behavioral insomnia of childhood. And there's a couple of different subtypes. And the one that we are talking about is the sleep onset association subtype. And I'm literally reading this from the American Thoracic Society. And that's like just one of many articles that go into this.
Yeah.
And if I read it, it says children, generally under the age of 2 years old, have a hard time falling asleep on their own or returning back to sleep when they wake up unless there are special conditions at bedtime. For example, they may be used to having their favorite toy next to them, being rocked to sleep, or used to having a parent sit next to them in order to fall asleep. This process can be very demanding to the child and parent and caregiver. And this is
Mm.
exactly what we see. That there is some sort of, how did they describe it? Special
Special.
condition happening at bedtime. And we mostly see it really start to become problematic after the 4-month sleep regression, when we know that baby sleep cycles mature to become more like ours. So we know that they start to rouse in between sleep cycles and say, hey, where's that special condition I had in order to fall asleep? Snap, snap, I need it to be replicated because I'm not sure how to do this on my own.
Yes, so the sleep cycle switches up from the age of 4 months onwards. So that's that 4-month regression. So instead of having 2 stages of sleep from 4 months onwards, your little one has 4 stages of sleep, plus I like to call a little bonus round at the end. So within one sleep cycle of, say, 40 to 45 minutes, your little one will determine if they're a 40-minute baby or a 45-minute baby.
Yep.
They will have 4 stages. So the first 10 minutes of your baby falling asleep is when their eyes are closing and they're drifting off into sleep. The next 10 to 20 minutes, they're getting deeper into sleep, but they're still in an active phase, which means that if you've got really high levels of cortisol, perhaps they're really overtired, then they might start to sort of pop awake at that time and start rousing. But if you manage to bypass all of that, you'll slide into the deep sleep phase, which is around the 20 to 30-minute mark. So deep sleep phase is when you could go into their room, put some washing away, they're out cold, they're not going to wake for love or money. You could vacuum their bedroom if you were hell bent on cleaning. But then that deep sleep phase will continue until around that 40-minute mark. At that stage, your little one is then sort of entering into more of an active phase again, and they are ending their sleep cycle, in which case the 3 senses are switching back on, so sight, touch, and hearing. So at the end of every sleep cycle, your little one is going to have a little partial arousal and double check everything is exactly the same as when they fell asleep. Now, this becomes important when we are trying to identify sleep associations, because if your little one, during that very first 10 minutes of falling asleep, has been rocked or held or patted or bounced or skydived, however you have got them off to sleep initially during those first 10 minutes, that's how they think they fall asleep. So at the end
Mm.
of every sleep cycle, when they come through into this active phase and they're double checking everything's the same, if there was a bottle in their mouth as they're falling asleep, they're thinking something has changed. They're expecting
Mm.
that bottle to still be there. They're expected to be in your arms, having they can smell you, they can see you. There's a bottle in the mouth. There's a nice, warm, cozy sort of that milk drunk feeling, but that's no longer there. So now what they're doing is they're sort of thinking, hang on, I need all those things recreated or
Mm.
represented to me in order to go off to sleep. Mom, Dad, come and help me. And so that's where mum or dad will come in and they'll present opportunities to go back off to sleep using all the tools that they were using initially. So, they might go back to rocking or holding or bouncing or patting. There might be another feed that comes back into the mix in order to get them back down quickly and easily.
Mm.
And so that's how sleep associations work. It's usually the things that they've drifted off to sleep with are the things they associate with falling asleep.
And I think that's where the assisted sleep associations, which would be the ones that are commonly referred to as negative,
Yeah.
are exactly what you've outlined. It's the assistance that requires a parent or a caregiver to come in and do X, Y, and Z to put baby back to sleep. Even the dummy. If they rely
Yep.
on you to replug that dummy every 45 minutes, then that is a parent-led association rather than a baby either replacing it on their own or doing something else in order to fall asleep without the dummy in their mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And then sleep associations can also be unassisted. And we want those ones because we know that your baby is fundamentally a natural pattern seeker. We all are. Uh, Beck, you've got a beautiful bedtime routine that I know that you do in the same series of steps every
Oh, yeah.
night. We also bang on about it in terms of setting the stage for optimal success at bedtime for a baby. We want all of these other ways to cue your baby in to say, hey, it's night time.
Mm-hmm.
Even in my house, and I'm sure I've talked about this before, the white noise machine goes on at 6:30 p.m. in our hallway. And my husband has even said, I hear it and my shoulders drop. And I'm like, that's because it's a sleep association. You know that we have made it to bedtime.
Relax.
We
Yeah.
parent hard in our house. We call ourselves a full contact family. Like we are all in. And
Mm-hmm.
that little signal of
I
the
love
white
that.
noise machine going on at 6:30 is like, oh, okay, home stretch to bedtime and
Yes.
maybe watching TV, you know?
Yeah.
Or, just some silence, something different, change of
Yeah.
pace from parenting. And I said to him, that's a sleep association. So white noise is the perfect example. It's also about where you're going to do your last feed and the timing of that. It's the sleeping bag going on. I used to
Sleeping
be
bag
able
is
to
a
put
really
my
great
baby.
indicator.
It's
Mm.
they even if your baby has a little cry when it goes on, if anything, that sort of confirms for us that you have this great series of events and it is working as a sleep association. They know what
Mm.
is coming next, and
My
they're having that
babies are
little.
used to. Oh my
There you
God,
go.
sorry. No, I
No,
just
I
got
was just
really
going to say,
excited.
some babies just have that little last minute outburst to be like, oh, I'm so tired and the sleeping bag's gone on and I don't need to hold it all together anymore. And no
Yeah,
time.
100%. Like that's that sequencing that really plays into a really great bedtime routine and positive
Mm.
associations. So everything in the same sequence is a positive step towards bedtime.
Yep.
I remember with my little guys when they had miracle blankets, and I just used to get the swaddle out and
Mm.
hold it up, and their eyes like would roll back because they were like, oh, thank God.
We know. We
Like,
know what's coming.
yeah, it was just, and I just remember thinking, oh, this is so fantastic. Like it was like that moment to go, I know it's coming. It's coming. Like I'm so
Mm.
tired. I'm ready for this. So those sort of elements can really create this wonderful bedtime experience. And even if you do have a little bit of crying or a little bit of an outburst, it doesn't signal to us as sleep consultants that there's anything wrong. It's more so, like you were saying, oh, thank goodness, I can relax. Like neurologically, a lot of babies are tapping out towards the end of the
Oh,
day.
yeah. Aren't we all?
Mm. And daytime sleep is controlled by a different part of the brain to nighttime sleep. So we can do things during the day that are totally different. I just want to touch really on how sleep changes from, at that 4-month part and how
Mm.
sometimes the sleep associations can become a little blurred because I know that I have families that come to me and they will say, I've rocked my baby since birth. I've rocked them all to sleep.
Mm.
Rocked them to sleep, and they used to sleep a beautiful chunk of the night. They would wake up, say they were, I don't know, 2 or 3 months old. They would sleep
Yep.
beautifully. I rocked them to sleep at bedtime. They would sleep until 2 or 3 a.m. They'd have a feed. They'd go back down. I'd rock them back to sleep. I don't think it's rocking. I don't think the sleep association is of rocking
Is
is
the
the thing,
problem.
because they used to sleep
Mm.
beautifully. But because the 4-month regression sort of changes sleep patterns and sleep behavior overnight, that's where things can start to become really apparent in terms of what baby is using in order to fall asleep and return to sleep. So from 4 months onwards, sleep typically looks like the first 5 to 6 hours of the night is really deep sleep. So your baby, if we're
Mm.
working on a 7 to 7 schedule, baby's going down at around that 7-ish mark, and then the first 5 to 6 hours is really deep sleep. So that it's common for little ones to sort of sleep all the way up till say 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, and from that point onwards, it transitions into fragile sleep. So all babies from that time onwards will wake every 1 to 2 hours.
Mm.
And there's nothing we can do to stop those wakings happening. But what we commonly find is that the sleep patterns have changed overnight, and so you're kind of seeing that the sleep association has now become really tricky, because they're waking up so frequently overnight and needing all that rocking to get back off to sleep, because their sleep has changed.
Yeah, yeah, and it can feel like a bit of a rude shock, can't it? Of like, but this
Yeah, it
was
can.
working, and this is the thing: babies love to evolve. It is
Yeah,
a ever-moving feast, and as we said before, like whilst it was working or worked for your first child with no issues,
yeah,
every baby is so different. And it is absolutely one of the things that we as your sleep consultants are looking at. It can also be that if we tidy up the rest of the day, that it becomes less of an issue overnight.
yeah,
And maybe you don't end up needing to do any active sleep training, because for you, it's no issue that you have to go in and rock twice overnight. If
yeah.
that's sustainable for you, absolutely carry on. If, however, you have done all of the work during the day, you've on the schedules, you got your feeds, and you are still having a really hard time with needing to assist, or the sleep associations that were working so easily before are no longer, and you're spending more time rocking your baby to get them to
Mm,
go to sleep, only to get 45 minutes of a sleep cycle before you have to rinse and repeat, then
yeah.
that is the green light that this to make change and to sleep train. And sleep training is teaching your baby the skill of falling asleep independently. So making the transition from awake to asleep on their own without the parent led associations, so that they finish a sleep cycle overnight, and instead of having to call out, cry, and need X, Y, and Z from you to go back to sleep, they think, oh, I know how to do this. I'm going to put my thumb in. I'm going to roll onto my side. I'm going to squish my face against the
Mm.
um, cot, which looks terrifying for parents, but my goodness, do I love that pressure, and that's how I like to do it.
Yeah.
And you will watch when you sleep train a baby and you teach them the skill, and it truly is a teachable skill for so
Yeah.
many babies, you will see them do some sort of weird and wonderful sleep
Mm.
association that they can replicate,
Mhm.
and they will figure out what soothes them. And you'll see babies whale tail their legs,
Mhm.
thumping their legs up and down in their sleeping bag. We see head banging, both on
Mhm.
the mattress but also a little bit on the cot railing.
Mhm.
Thumb sucking, finger sucking, rolling onto their tummy, bottoms up. Like
Yep.
getting into that position.
Yep.
I've worked with babies that hum.
Yep.
I've worked with toddlers that hum. Oh, and rubbing their head.
Rubbing
That's
the
a big
head's
one.
a big one. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. But the also, having those taggy blankies or the comforters as well, and
Yes,
they're
that's
like
my
just
second baby. He
fiddling.
loves his
Yeah.
taggy. Yeah. He
And
sleeps with
then
his hands behind his head like an old man. That's how I
that's
know
cute.
if I see him. And even on the plane, he'll do it on my lap. I know he's about to surrender to sleep when his hands go behind his head. And my
I
daughter
think
sucks her thumb.
that's very cute. I was a thumb sucker growing up, so I
Mm,
had like a little bunny, and it had worn ears. But I think there's also you've got to remember there's an art to falling asleep as well. So
mm,
there is being wide awake, there's feeling drowsy, there's some layering. Wide awake, feeling drowsy, feeling sleepy, conking out. We have
yeah.
to get comfortable with the idea that there's space between awake and asleep. And that's when the space between awake and asleep is that whole figuring out part of that
Mm,
self settling, the calming, the calming of the mind and being able to succumb to sleep. So there just has to be practice opportunities.
Yeah.
And I am in the camp. I'm not sure about how you feel about it, Sally. I'm pretty sure I know how you feel, actually, to be honest. A lot of families will want to try and avoid lots of help, in those early that, they've heard about sleep associations, so baby's born, they've heard about sleep associations. They don't want to do anything that could potentially create a sleep association later on in life.
The fear of building a rod for your own back, which is what we
The
hear
fear.
from every family. Yep.
For me personally, I am in the camp of, rock, hold, pat, cuddle, all the things to get the naps happening, to get the sleep happening if you need to. I am really pro doing what it takes to get the naps happening, particularly through the
Yep.
day. And bedtime. Like, babies are young, they're little, they need a lot of help,
Yep.
and I'm all for it. I don't think that there is an issue with using lots of tools and things to get little ones off to sleep.
I
Pram,
agree.
bouncers, rockers, all the things. You go ahead, you use all the jam. But if it becomes unsustainable and you're feeling, like you said before, that you're spending more time trying to settle than
Yep.
what sort of the reward that you're reaping, that's where you start sort of feeling like, okay, there's probably a time limit on all the things, all the help that I am offering. And there's a moment in time for our little ones to shine. Sometimes we get into autopilot where we're doing, it's better the devil you know. I'm going to keep
Yeah.
rocking and
Yeah.
holding my baby until they're asleep and they're over the age of 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, sometimes 2 years. We're just in autopilot doing all the things to help them get off to sleep. But like all skills, learning to ride a bike, learning how to write, how to talk, all the things, we need practice opportunities. There
Yep.
needs to be moments in order where for our little ones to shine. And that's the uncomfortable moment. When they're awake, that uncomfortable moment between being awake and being asleep, that's the teachable moment. That is the moment that we need to allow our little ones a little bit of space in order to learn the skill of self-settling when you decide it's time for you.
Yeah, and you got to remember they haven't listened to this episode. They're not in on the plan. They're like, hang on, I've got no notes on being rocked for 45 minutes. Mum's back hasn't really crossed my mind. Hang on, what? Now I'm going to do something different. Even if you're just layering on other sleep associations, like, what is this pat? Why are you patting me, woman, instead of rocking me? It takes time for babies to pick up on the new patterns, and you have to be okay with that process. And the way that we work means that by the time we get to bedtime and by the time we get to teaching the skill of self-settling with sleep training, there should be no other causes of any tears. It's not because they're cold. It's not because they're under or overtired, to the best of our ability in the early days. But we will give you the schedule. You know that this is because we're making change and your baby is tired and a bit confused. And that is their prerogative. Your job then is to create the consistent pattern all night long. Because another really common scenario that we see is you might be listening to this and think, we've got no sleep association at bedtime. We can plonk that baby down, wide awake, chatting, laughing, babbling, blowing raspberries, and in 15 minutes he or she has put themselves to sleep. But 5 times overnight, we're needing to make a bottle, we're needing to rock, we're needing to pat, won't let me leave the room. And that's because those sleep associations are associated with something happens overnight that is worth waking up for. Some sort of stimulation, interaction, event. I know I can do this at bedtime because that's the pattern we have, but I don't need to do it overnight. And so it is imperative that you follow through overnight so that it becomes one clear message, one clear expectation of like, the self-settling is what I do in between these sleep cycles. And it's also not uncommon that you might have a baby that maybe you've even done some sleep training at bedtime and overnight, but yet they're still needing so much assistance with naps. And as you touched on before, Beck, 2 different parts of the brain. And that's why actually we can get away with throwing a lot of sleep associations and saying, hey, can you get this nap done in the pram whilst we focus on bedtime and overnight? Equally, it means that then you have to apply, well, you don't have to do anything, but when you're ready and you're wanting to do less assistance during the day, you know that you've got this great skill set and now you start to apply it to the naps, the self-settling. I often work with families who have like the good problem, which is that baby can self-settle and smash out a 2-hour nap, link the sleep cycle, no issue, no assistance required. But bedtime and overnight, you need all the hoo-ha. And again,
Yeah.
that's because what happens during the day does not interfere with what happens overnight. You can have sleep associations at different times of the day, and they don't compete because it's essentially two different parts of the brain, the nap brain and the night brain.
Mm. I think it falls back to confidence, doesn't it? Like when you're trying to tackle something different and you're wanting to work on sleep associations, it's about having that confidence behind you to sort of start something new and then follow through. And then, it can become your favorite show. When you're watching them on the monitor, and learn how to self-settle, and then they wake up in the night, and then you're watching that monitor like a hawk, like come on, and you see
can
them
do it.
do it, and the joy it brings you to see that they've learned this new skill, and they're able to easily put themselves back off to sleep. I think it's something that is so wonderful to watch in action, and to know that you've been a part of allowing them an opportunity to learn a lifelong skill. And at a young age, where the benefits
Absolutely.
are huge.
But what you touch on, being able to watch them on the monitor overnight, use that skill of self-settling, proves that sleep training does not stop a baby from waking overnight. That's not possible. You and I, we wake up so many times overnight. We pull up the doona. I've gone to the toilet to the point where, like, we don't even know that we're doing it. We just roll over, spidey senses say nothing to see here, and we go back to sleep. The same is with our babies. Sleep training does not stop them from doing that. What it teaches them is the skill of self-settling in the context of baby sleep, where they can put themselves back to sleep. And if you ever see content that says self-settling isn't possible, it's not real, I beg you to take a look at the babies that have done this essentially from the day they've come home. Those families, I've got one of them, where you never had to sleep train. Your baby always was just able to sleep well through the 4-month sleep regression, no issues. They could consolidate their sleep and put themselves to sleep, rinse and repeat multiple times overnight. What are they doing if not self-settling? And that is what some can just do inherently. The unicorn babies, like I said, I've had one, and I've had one that didn't come with that skill set. We had to download that manual later. But it's a teachable skill then for others.
Yeah, what kind of triggers me a lot and is seeing the content from other sources that say that sleep training teaches your baby that no one is coming. Oh my God. I loathe to read that. It's
It's
so
in my
untrue.
TikTok comments section almost on the daily, Beck.
Yeah, it's so untrue. Like that they don't signal at all. But if that was true, then they wouldn't be if that was true, then they wouldn't be signaling through the day. They just, that to you as a parent through the day, that, they just wouldn't be.
They would never need you for
participating in.
anything.
Yeah, exactly right. But babies are waking
But
and
it's
they're
also
flexing their
not.
skill set all night.
Yeah.
It's not. They are waking and they're turning over, getting themselves comfy. It's a skill that essentially everyone masters at some point. But you're creating the optimal environment for them to learn at a younger age.
But if you look at this from an anecdotal evidence perspective, have you ever worked with a family that then post-sleep training say, my baby is feeling helpless, they've never woken or signaled for me, I had no idea that they were unwell, they've never needed me overnight again, to the point of like neglect?
Yeah,
If anything,
actually,
yeah, you go. I'm sure we're about to say the same thing.
yeah, no, I was going to say that. I think it provides clarity. Like in terms of like for little ones that sleep well overnight and can link their sleep cycles, then if there is you kind of get into this really good pattern. Let's just say your little one is, 6 months old, waking for a feed, predictably at say 3 a.m., going back off to sleep. But then one particular night, they are waking at 11:30. And then that seems unusual. Like that's an unusual waking for your little one. You kind of do a little audit of the day. Have the naps all been tickety boo? Have we had all our meals, our milk, all the things? If everything seems pretty, clued on for the day, then my natural assumption would be this is out of character. This is unusual. I wonder if there's pain or discomfort related to this waking. And you would just go straight in. Like you absolutely would always go straight into your little one, but it provides clarity in terms of, okay, this could be potentially because of X, Y, and Z. You're not then sort of, if for little ones that are waking continuously all night long, it is really hard to pinpoint.
You can't determine what's what.
Yeah, if there's pain or discomfort, because they wake all night, every night, for weeks, months on end. So how do you know if it's teething, that they're getting a cold, that they're that they've got a wet nappy, unless you do all the checks for absolutely every waking? It becomes really hard to tell.
And they will absolutely still signal if they need you. Yep. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And if they don't, then you know that they've got this covered and they're going to drift back off to sleep.
Exactly.
One of the other scenarios that we will often see is that sometimes it can feel like maybe you don't have a sleep association, and yet when we read your logs and we go through everything with a fine-tooth comb, we would actually lean towards, yes, in fact you do. And the common one that we see is that you have your feed as the very last step of the bedtime routine. So you do your feed in the cozy dark chair, burp, straight into the cot. And yes, your baby might have awake eyes. They might even have a quick chat and a coo or a little cry and then drift off to sleep very quickly. We would still, in the context of making your plan and truly teaching self-settling, we would kind of, it's not feed to sleep technically, but it's probably done 3/4 of the milk drunk drowsy, and then all your baby has to do is the last little bit to get over the line to fall asleep. When we're teaching the art of falling asleep, we want to go from awake. So
like
wide awake eye, 100% awake, where you're like, this couldn't possibly turn into sleep anytime soon.
They're never going to go to sleep. Yeah, that kind of awake. That scary kind of like, oh my God, they don't look drowsy at all. At all. Okay.
That's what we're after, because that milk feed is the last thing. And again, remember, we work with babies having tricky sleep. They've come to us for a reason. So we would, when we're finessing the process, we would be moving that feed 30 minutes before and creating this really structured bedtime so that you know that your baby is truly falling asleep. The other thing I often say is that we just have such huge wake windows that for me, by the time you might say, oh no, my baby knows how to self-settle, they're asleep within 30 seconds after, off the back of a 6-hour wake window at 5 months old. For me, that's just passing out. They've just conked out, fast asleep. It's not self-settling. And I think often a lot of sleep consultants who don't want to touch sleep training because it just doesn't fit their ethos, they rely purely on building such huge sleep pressure that it looks like self-settling, when in fact it's just, I'm so tired. My head's hit the cot mattress. I'm out. And it's just not how we teach self-settling and practice sustainably, long, future-proofed sleep, because at some point that will catch up with you. And so if we actually treat the issue, which for a lot of babies is parent-led sleep associations, and sometimes it's be that something was working and it stopped. Your baby outgrew it. Maybe it could be that you actually have really loved rocking your baby to sleep. You haven't mind doing the odd overnight settling session, but you're pregnant with your second baby, and you just can't keep heaving this toddler out of the cot any longer. Or you liked co-sleeping and now you don't. No problem. It doesn't matter what the catalyst for wanting better sleep is, or moving away from parent-led sleep associations. I remember, and it wasn't even a sleep association, I remember breastfeeding. I breastfed both of my babies until about 14 months. And I remember with my second, there was just one night where I looked at the chair. I was like, I can't sit there again. And my baby didn't need it in order to fall asleep. It was the final feed. I'd weaned all the rest. And so one night I was like, I just mentally I can't do it. I'm done.
Right. Yeah. You
We've
just
come to
hit
the
your
end of the
limit.
road. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was, and so I sent my husband in, and he did a cuddle, and we didn't need it for sleep, so it was really no big deal. But it just got to it was just like, oh, tonight's the night, we're done,
Mm.
and it doesn't matter what the reason is; it is all valid, and it is never too late to make change and to peel back the layers on your sleep associations and teach the art of self-settling. We got a question for our sleep detectives this week from a twin mum, which is exciting. We don't often talk about twins, but boy, do we love them.
Yeah.
Now, it's a little bit long, so listening is on Beck. Okay? Beck says, hello, Sally and Beck. I hope you're both well. I have a question for sleep detectives. I hope it's okay to DM. Absolutely, Beck. The boys are 16 months old, 14 and a half corrected now. They are still on 2 naps, and their day looks like this. 6:45, 7 a.m. up, immediate breakfast for the hungry fellas, morning snack around 9:30, nap is 10:15 till 10:30, lunch at 12, nap 2 is 1 till 3/3:30, dinner at 5:30, 150ml bottle at 6:30, and bed at 7. Still with me?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That sounded promising. The issue I'm having okay. The issue I'm having is that probably 50% of the time their first nap is being resisted. Sometimes they will fall asleep at 10:20, sometimes at 10:25, sometimes one will fall asleep and the other will resist, and I always tried to keep them on the same schedule. This is such a good question. And I'm thinking it's time to drop the nap. The boys used to sleep right through till around 6:30, 6:45 and are waking at 6 a.m. on the dot and sometimes falling back to sleep, sometimes kicking off. Daylight savings is changing this Sunday morning and 7 a.m. will turn into 6 a.m. Should I start the transition phase now or wait till on the new time zone and just go to war all at once? I'm kidding. Thanks in advance. I love this is the kind of approach and humor that we hope we can also help share in the world of baby sleep when it all just feels so heavy and serious and scary.
Yes.
Sometimes it's just nice to have a bit of a lull about when sleep's not going so well.
100%. 100%.
Okay, so twinnies, just to remind you, 16 months, 14 and a half months corrected.
I mean, the schedule looks good. Like in terms of like the
schedule looks really good.
Transition routine, this is absolutely appropriate. We use like a really quick refresher nap in the morning just to get through until we have the nice long one in the afternoon. Maybe the only thing that I could sort of tweak would be potentially bedtime. But it sounds as though the reason I would tweak bedtime is because bedtime is 3 to 3:30, and sometimes bedtime. So the nap is ending between 3 and 3:30, but bedtime is around 7. So ideally, we'd be looking for around 4 hours. So if the nap is finishing at 3:30, that's a little bit less sleep pressure than what would be ideal. But it seems to be working. My only hesitation with moving to one nap is that there are times, well, for the most part, at least one twin is taking a nap.
It's still taking
in the morning.
Yeah, which is usually our sign. And I think age, like if they were 18 or 19 months, we'd be like, cut your losses. Like even if 120 loves a 5-minute power snooze in the pram in the morning, we're gonna move on to one nap now. But 14 and a half months corrected, even if they sat somewhere in between, like even at 16 months, gestational age, it's still super age appropriate to want to take that morning nap.
To still have them. And in terms of like the daylight savings, personally, I would probably just hang out, just get onto the new daylight savings time, just new time zone. It's a time. Let's just get onto the new time.
I call it time zone. Yeah. The 1 hour
Let's
difference.
just get onto the new time, and then you've got new data, because then you might find that because it's more of a 6 a.m. waking, that first nap, it just is super easy for both babies all over again. Yeah. and then you kind of have to work with getting them back into the pattern of one or both of them is not taking that first nap anymore. And I think once that's done, you'll probably got a couple of weeks, and then I think in terms of like age and stage, you're probably right to sort of switch to a one nap
Yep.
schedule. But I think I would probably move more towards hold steady until you're on the new time, daylight savings time, and then go
Yep.
for and then go for it.
I would do the same, because I think if you throw everything in the
It's
mix, including
confusing.
daylight
You're
savings,
kind of
you
like working
don't
with
know
old
what's
time and new
what.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, and
A
is
lot of
this
mental
actually
calculation.
nap refusal? Exactly. So let's
Yeah.
just do one thing at a time. The other thing is that even if one or both are falling asleep at 10:20 or 10:25, I'll still take that.
Yeah, same.
What
I
time would
just
you
want a
cut them
little
off?
look, I think probably for the twins, I would say if they did 10:30 to 10:40, like if they fell asleep at
Yeah,
10:30, I'd be giving them a 10-minute power snooze.
yeah,
And then I would just be jumping straight into the nice long second nap. If they were to sleep by 10:30 and they're not looking like they're absolutely about to, I would, and that happened for consecutive days, I think
mm,
we're ready. I would be saying we
yeah,
were ready.
yeah.
Everything else looks
I
great.
I think they've done so well to hold on to
Yeah.
this with two of them,
Yeah.
because again, like we always say this, life on one app is so good.
Mm.
It would
Yeah,
be
yeah.
so tempting to just throw in the towel. So we really appreciate the effort and the commitment to
Yeah.
the transitional schedule. I think having the permission that, okay, if they fall asleep at 10:30 doesn't have to be your cutoff, that if they're not asleep by 10:29, it's game over and we're not offering the nap. 10:30 to 10:40. And if you aren't already, although I suspect you probably are, remember this is not a cot nap. This is a throw
Mhm.
everything, talk about sleep associations,
Oh, yeah.
throw every
Bring
sleep
them back in.
association. Yeah. We've got no rules here because we just want to get it in to bide our time for a smooth
Yeah.
2-to-1 nap drop. Because the last thing you want to happen with one baby, let alone two, is that you make the transition a little bit too early. You drag the other one along for the ride and it works really well for a couple of weeks. And then you've got overnight wakings, babies waking each other. You've got babies starting the day at 5 a.m. and it just kind of gets really messy. So I think hold on for as long as possible, ride out daylight savings, and know that if you get a 10:30 till 10:40, we will absolutely take it.
Mhm.
And then just keep in mind, if nap 2, they take that little bit longer to fall asleep, no drama. The context is they had that slightly later nap, but we've kept it short so that it doesn't impact it too much. Okay, I have another question here, which is from Haley, who says, love your podcast. You have helped me so much, especially having reasonable expectations for sleep.
Oh,
I love
cool.
that. I
That's
really love
nice.
that.
Yeah.
Question on early rising and anchoring naps. 5.5-month-old. Bedtime is 7:15 p.m. One feed at 1 a.m. Wakes 6:15 a.m. but left in cot until 7, usually just tossing around but not crying. Should nap 1 still be 9 a.m.? 2.75-hour wake window from 6:15 wake up, or do I bring forward to say 8:15, 8:30? Thank you. Great
Great question.
question, because this is where we contradict ourselves and we
Mm.
create confusion, because we'll say, oh, you'll use your full wake window from when they woke from a nap to know when to bring nap 2 forward, for example, except when it comes to the start of the day. We use your
Yeah.
7 a.m. as your anchored up time, and that's what you're going to base your wake window from. And really, we take the guesswork out for that first nap of the day. You're going to lock in 9 a.m. No matter what, whether it was 5:30, 6, 6:15, your first nap of the day is anchored in place.
We do this to prevent the early rising from slipping back even more. We do it to keep the second nap on track and to have that ending at a decent time, so you've got a nice third nap in the mix. Everything is carefully considered when it comes to the timings of the naps in order to optimize your night and your start of the day. We're not banking, and of course, there's going to be times when your baby is overtired when they go down for nap 1, because we have absolutely pushed the friendship to no end. Like there is,
Yeah.
we're really working them hard.
Yeah.
It's the future proofing that's being put into this. So it's not a forever thing. It's to get the early rise back on track, but it's also, we're not banking on a huge long nap at this time. So,
Yeah.
and especially at 5 months, you don't need to be tied into a self settle either at this point. You can rock, hold, pat, cuddle. We just want the nap done to tie us through, to get through to nap 2, basically.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
where after nap 1, then we create the optimal sleep pressure, so that then if you're wanting to work on a settling strategy for nap 2 and you're wanting them to sort of fall asleep more independently or to link their sleep cycles, that's where we use our correct wake window to build the correct sleep pressure for the nap. So we kind of get back on track at that point. But in terms of the first nap, you can, if you're working on early rising, then and anchoring your day in, you can sort of use a little bit more assistance when and as needed.
Yeah, because if you have this floating time of depending purely on awake time in the morning versus up time, which would be 7 a.m. regardless for us, is that not only are you going to have to make it up as you go along every single day, based on what is it, 6:15 one day, 6:45 the next, 5:50 the next, but if you bring that nap earlier, you will accidentally reinforce any kind of early rising. Even if you don't have early rising, you can accidentally create it because your baby's little internal body clock thinks, oh, I don't have to sleep later than 6:15. I may as well wake up at 5:50 because I get this early nap. And then you're kind of doing reverse daylight. So like you get on a different time zone really by accident because of this fluctuating first nap time. But also to your point of, if you bring it early, then your feeds come early, then your next naps come early, and before you know it, you've got bedtime that's in the 6s, and then it's not early rising, your baby's just gone to bed too early. And then we got to shift everything other day.
Nap
everywhere
as well.
Oh, yeah, to try and bridge you to a bed in the 7s.
Yeah. So
and then where you do your feeds go and...
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's always a method to the madness with us. That's why, like, we will push the friendship to get a more anchored first nap in place to tie everything else
So
together.
we're not even basing it off the 6:15 awake time in this scenario. We're basing it off, this is the age. We're aiming for a 7 a.m. up. 6:15 a.m. awake is fantastic. No issues. If they go back to sleep between 6:15 and 7, cool, fabulous. Protocol is working. Your nap is going to be at 9 regardless, if that's what's on your schedule. Okay, that is our sleep detectives. And remember, if you like hearing us unpack what's going on for a family, you're going to love our in-person event where we get to unpack what is going on for you and your baby in a personalised way. So as we were talking about before, keep your eyes out because we will be doing an in-person event, which is very exciting. Okay, Beck, we haven't got fast for today. I'm not going to name names, but one of us has let the podcast planning down. It was not me.
Yeah. I don't know who it was then. But
so weird. So weird. Must be weird. Elijah, the baby doll behind you. All right, everyone. Let's wrap this up. We're going to go and eat probably and keep chatting to each other because we're inseparable. Thank you so much for tuning in as always. Keep your eyes peeled for more details about our in-person Nap Trapped on the Road event. And if you're interested, drop us a comment. We love hearing from you. We get lonely if we don't we think there's something wrong with us if we don't hear from you. And we will see you next week on Nap Trapped. Bye.